its advertisers. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and this evening we're here, as we often are on a Wednesday, with some matters that we feel might be of some interest to you and to the general public. Let me take a moment to wish all of the many people here on the island of Nevis a very, very good evening. It is a beautiful night here, cool night. We've finally been getting some rains, and for that we are truly grateful to God. We know that we've had a drought for a very long time, and so the rains coming, it has been a tremendous blessing. Good evening to the wonderful people over on our sister island of St. Kitts and those who are listening throughout the Caribbean. I know we have a regular and high listenership in places like Station, Sabre, in St. Martin, the USVI, the BVI, and also, of course, in places like Puerto Rico. I want to say good evening to all of you, wherever you are. Good evening to our friends and family and the many well-wishers in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Canada. I know we have regular listeners there as well. For all of you who might be in hospital, I was there just yesterday doing some visits. I want to say good evening to you. I shan't call any names, but I wish you to know that you're in our prayers for a speedy recovery. For those who are going through some difficulty, I want you to hold your head up, trust in God, and understand that difficult times do not last, but of course strong people do. They say tough times don't last, but tough people do. And so I would want to say a special good evening to all of you. It has been a difficult day for me personally on the island of Nevis. I think many people would know that a law firm, Daniel Brantley, that I'm very proud of. I spent a lot of effort and years trying to build a world-class law practice, and I had to leave it in 2013 to take up public office and have been on sabbatical since. But recently, of course, we would have heard much, and today I woke to the news at 5 this morning that the building that houses the main office for Daniel Brantley was on fire. Regrettably, the fire has destroyed virtually everything. We are, however, grateful that there was no loss of life and no injury to anyone. The police and fire officials are undertaking their own investigation, and they will, of course, determine the cause of the fire. I recognize that speculation has been rife, but I would ask people to hold in terms of rushing to any judgment and allow the authorities to do their work and for them to establish their findings as to what could have caused this particular conflagration, which has so negatively impacted a thriving business and certainly jeopardized the livelihood of so many innocent people who get a living and earn a living at that establishment. I am publicly and privately, but since I'm on radio, I should say the public side of things, I'm grateful to the partners at Daniel Brantley, the staff there, very committed. They all came out to work today. And I think the public would know that that law firm has another office, and thankfully that other office was unaffected, and so they were and are able to continue in business. And so I'm grateful for that. I would also want to publicly record my gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, and the colleague Minister Patches Liebert, who journeyed over from St. Kitts this morning to show their solidarity. Of course, to my other cabinet colleagues at the federal level and also at the Nevis Island administration level, all of whom called, text, and have been in touch throughout the day. Let me also record my gratitude to individuals such as Sir Kennedy Simmons, our national hero, who called, Dr. Douglas, leader of the opposition, who called, other members of the opposition benches on St. Kitts, who called to express their condolence and sorrow at this tragic event today, and of certain people who have called from across the region. My dear friend Victor Banks, Chief Minister in Anguilla, a man whom I've known for many years, he too called to offer words of comfort. And I have been really comforted by the calls that have come from far and wide. It has been an interesting day because whilst I think the overwhelming majority of people have expressed their shock and sorrow at the clear, significant loss suffered by the destruction of this business and the destruction of a building that has been there for a long time. In fact, that building was the property of Sir Simeon Daniel, our national hero here in Nevis. That is where he had his offices all these years. and the offices have continued there, as Daniel Brantley, and certainly his son Adrian is a lawyer there. And in fact, the irony of ironies, Adrian actually occupies the very same space that his father used to occupy. And so there's a tremendous amount of history there which was lost today to fire. And so there's a deep sense for me of sadness. Again, I do not know what caused the fire, and I'm not prepared to speculate on that. That is a matter for the police and the fire services. But I think it's been an overall day of loss. But today has been an interesting day because whilst the overwhelming majority of people have expressed their sorrow and concern, we have had a few who have really, in my view, demonstrated the evil that lurks in our hearts, and some who have sought to take to social media and elsewhere to make all kinds of allegations, and almost as if they're gloating and happy that this tragedy has happened. I keep saying to our people that politics is what it is, that we should support who we want to support. As a politician, I would love if everyone would support me, but I know that will never be the case. And so I respect people's right to support their party, and with all the fervor, the vim, vigor, and vitality that they can get to support the candidate of their choice. I have no difficulty with that. At the end of the day, politics is about a competition of ideas. And at the end of the day, the people in a democracy as rich and as mature as ours will vote for who they want to vote for. What I've always been concerned about is the level of vitriol, the level of venom, let me use the word, the level of hatred that some have sought to espouse in the name of politics. It really, to my mind, is unnecessary. I have political opponents, I don't have any enemies, and I keep making that point. And what I find is particularly troubling is that some who claim to support a political party are the most vitriolic, the most venomous, and they have the most hatred to spew. While the leaders of their political parties, those who are actually the politicians, have taken the time to call and express their concern and their sorrow. So there is a disconnect where those who lead political parties and those who are politicians, those who are standing in an election, who are under hustings, arguing and debating and seeking to get elected, that there's a certain decorum that some of those, in fact I would say most of those, engage in. But yet you have people who purport to follow them, who are only prepared to engage in vitriol. I am, however, comforted that based on what I have seen today and based on the experiences I've had today, as tragedy has come to my door, that there are far more people of goodwill than there are people who are evil. That the voices of those who are good and righteous have overwhelmingly been greater than the voices of the few. Negative ones who are, even now, intent on spewing hatred, they say, in the name of politics. I want to thank that overwhelming majority. I want to remind us all that we are all human beings. And I couldn't care who you are, whether you're premier or pauper, whether you're prime minister or street cleaner. All of us are human beings. If God is good to us, we will have long life. We will have good health. If for some reason we fall short, all of us ultimately, whether you live to 100 or you live to 50, whether you're rich and powerful or you're poor and powerless, all of us have a destiny that we must keep. And all of us, despite what we may feel and our own image of self oft inflated, have a 6x6, 6 feet, promised to us at Springfield and St. Kitts or at the Britannic here in Nevis. So much of what we engage in, I think, is at the end of the day mere vanity. And I invite all to remember our humanity, because stripped of all the trappings and titles, we are only people. Good people and bad people, but only people. And so it behooves us all, therefore, to be each brother's keeper, our sister's helper, to ensure that we continue to have our humanity exhibited in all that we say and do, and to continue to show to the world that as Nevisians and Kittitians, as people, that we are imbued with that spirit of goodness. And tonight, therefore, I want to take that opportunity to thank the multitude, the overwhelming majority of good people in our society. People who have reached out, some I don't even know, with a little prayer just to say, be comforted. And I would want to remind us all that despite the loss of material things, there's been no loss of life and no injury. And all that has been lost can be replaced. And so today I am down but not out. It is never a good thing to lose what one has worked so hard to build. But at the end of the day, I am satisfied that God is good, that everything that happens, happens for a purpose, and that God's plan may not be understood by us mere mortals, but it was always a good plan. And so I am comforted and comfortable. And I would just want to encourage all of those out there who may be going through their own fire right now, their own storm of loss, that God's plan is always a perfect plan. And even if you do not understand it, trust in the fact that his plan is a perfect plan. And that is as much as I will say on that. I had asked the Honorable Eric Evelyn if he could have hosted this show tonight, because I know that he's in Culture Armor mode. And I admonished him the other day that as a minister, perhaps he should not be enjoying his Culture Armor so much, that he should remember that he is the minister and he has overall oversight of the Culture Armor festivities. But we all know Eric, and he is having a good time, and I have publicly congratulated him before. I do it again tonight. He has been doing a wonderful job as a new minister, a man who is the most popular of all, and he continues to perform, and I am truly grateful to him. Tonight he couldn't be here because he's hosting a dance production, I'm told, that is happening at NEPAC. There is such a packed calendar of activities, but certainly I want to commend him. One of his innovations, one of the things he's introduced are the improvements at the cultural complex, and the reviews, the rave reviews have been coming in for people who are so happy that the stage has been covered. The venue is looking very professional. I don't know if it's within Vaughn's broadcast standards, but Weber will tell me tomorrow. But they say the venue is sexy. That's the word that they're saying. Very, very nice. And I want to commend him. When he came to the cabinet, he had some big plans. And we told him what was manageable, and he has delivered in spades. And so, Eric Evelyn, wherever you are, take a bow. I believe that you have done an excellent job and continue to do an excellent job. We are in the thick of the Culture Armor celebrations. We've had the Talented Youth competition. I'm told that Ivor Walters Primary walked away with the top prize. I want to congratulate them. They are my alma mater, and to say congratulations to them and to all the schools that would have participated, to their teachers, to the parents, and to all those involved. That show continues to be a wonderful show, and we congratulate all the youngsters who would have done so well in providing entertainment, and more than the entertainment, in keeping the culture alive. I also, of course, want to congratulate the winners of the Miss Swimsuit and Mr. Cool last night. I'm told again that the show was a flawless execution, that it went well, that the crowds were there, it was well attended. And again, I want to congratulate all those involved, the chaperones, the organizers, the people who work really hard to make this a reality. I look forward now to the remaining days of Culture Armor. Of course, on Friday, we have the Wet Fete with Mr. Killer and Iowa George. I'm hearing that the complex will not be big enough, the village, I'm sorry, will not be big enough to hold the people. My suggestion is get there early so that you can find a spot. Based on what I'm hearing, you will not be allowed to have more than a foot or two around you. When we were small, they used to say people renting a tile. Well, you'll have a tile, 12 by 12. Beyond that, I think you'd have difficulty because they're expecting a massive crowd there for that big show. We obviously want to welcome one and all to Nevis to celebrate, welcome those who are home, welcome those who have come for the homecoming celebration, and just to say that this is really a good time of year, a good time when people are getting together as families and friends and enjoying each other, enjoying each other's company, enjoying the food, the fun, the folklore, what makes us Nivision. Culturama is unique to us. It epitomizes and embodies the Nivisionness in us. And I would want to welcome everyone and to ask that our people continue to enjoy themselves and to have a good time. I myself regret that I have not been out very much because I've had so much that I've been dealing with, but I trust and hope that I would be able to participate and have a little bit of the fun in the ensuing days, in the days to come. Of course, on Friday we have the big wet fete. That's what everybody's talking about. On Saturday we have the food fair. That is going to be another massive event. It's a very popular event. And then on that same night, I believe we have the Calypso finals this Saturday night, when the 7 finalists are going to try to dethrone King This and That, the reigning king. We have never had, and that is one of the fascinating things about Nevis Culturama, in 45 years, we've never had the same person win the crown for Calypso back to back. And so that is going to be interesting. On Sunday, we have the Miss Culture pageant, which is another big show, and this year promises to be a wonderful show. I know that they have a lot of great things in store for the audience. And so again, people are asked to go out and be a part of it. Monday morning, of course, is Juve morning, as usual, and people are going to be on the street in their numbers. And then I think Monday night, we have the Miss Caribbean show, which is one of the premier shows on the calendar each year, and that happens on Monday night. Tuesday is also a holiday, and we have the parade of bands and the last lap. And then guess what? It's a wrap, and we then have to look forward for Culturama 2020. That's the way it goes, but I'm hoping that people go out and really enjoy themselves and have a good time, have good fun. But of course, remember to be safe, and I continue to pray that we have an incident-free Culturama. So we look forward certainly to all the activities that are left. Tomorrow, however, on a more somber note, I'd want to invite the general public, please, to come out and to come to the Christina Memorial on Hunkins Drive. We will have the usual annual celebration, if you will, commemoration, if you will, of the Christina disaster. We have that remembrance service each year on the 1st of August to mark, of course, the time, a very tragic time in our history, when we would have lost hundreds of people at sea, as the inter-island ferry Christina would have sunk during that period of time on the 1st of August 1970. And so this year makes some 49 years by my tally that we have been having that particular memorial service, and we invite one and all to come out. It's a time when survivors come out, it's a time when family members come out, it's a time when people who would come to remember their lost loved ones. And we look forward to that service, and we would ask one and all who can make it to come. I'm told the time is at 10 a.m. tomorrow, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, at the memorial for the Christina disaster right on the Hunkins Drive. And so we invite one and all to come out and really to pay homage and respect to those who perished, and to celebrate with those who survived, and to remember, because this event, more than any other event in our recent history, changed the course of the life, the socio-political and socio-economic life and times of the island of Nevis. And so I'm extending a warm invitation to all to please come and be a part of us, and let us show up in our numbers. Let us demonstrate our humanity, that we remember, that we will never forget our history, and that history of loss, of pain, of struggle, of the Nivisian people is an important history to us. And so I invite one and all to come out and be a part of it. I will open the line soon, because no doubt people will have things to say, and they would want to put whatever they want on the table. But also, of course, I'm sure people want to be congratulating the Mr. Cool and Miss Swimwear, and of course the Ivor Walters primary students and the other students who performed so well, and give a feedback in terms of Culturama and how things have been going. But before I do that, let me just take a moment to indicate that the past 2 days have been quite historic in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Why do I say that? I say that because today the debate on certain amendments to our laws was concluded, and we had those amendments passed into law, which in effect are going to lead to a decriminalization of the use of marijuana. Now, why is that important? It is important because we understand that for many, many, many years, those who subscribe to the Rastafarian religion have been persecuted, they have been prosecuted, they have been hounded, they have been prevented from getting jobs, they have been discriminated against because of their faith and what they say is part of their faith, which is the use of marijuana. In more recent times, the use of marijuana has become more prevalent. And so it is not only the Rastafarian community, but others. And the Rastafarian community know that they themselves have come, representatives of them have come to this show time and time again as that debate has raged. In the last election cycle here in Nevis, we saw the NRP take up that issue and sought to make it a political issue. The position of the CCM then and now, and has always been, that these issues are difficult issues which must only come about in terms of a resolution through public consultation. That it was not and should not be a political issue to be raised in a political campaign as if it were political football, but rather that serious people who wanted to make a serious difference must do it in a serious way. And so we did not engage with this debate about marijuana because we also knew that constitutionally the NRP had no power whatsoever to pass any law to change the position in relation to marijuana. And so the CCM did not engage at the local level. What we did through our representatives, the Honorable Vance Amory and myself at the federal level, is we engage at that level because that is where any legislative changes would have to be made. I am very happy that through the leadership of the cabinet, headed as it is by the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, that the very wise decision was taken to put in place a wide panel, a commission called the Marijuana Commission, or Cannabis Commission, I'm sorry, was put in place. That commission, headed by CMO Dr. Laws, did their work over a period of some 18 months. A widespread consultation. They went into every highway and byway of St. Kitts and Nevis. Every village and every town, every hamlet and every city. Every person who wanted to be heard was heard. And at the end of the day, that wide cross-section of individuals representing the youth, the religious community, the Rastafarian community, the medical community, the mental health community, that all of these individuals got together, met, consulted, listened, and produced a report. It was as a consequence of that report and the unanimous recommendations made in that report, which were that cannabis use should be decriminalized for small quantities, and that cannabis should be legalized in relation to medicinal and scientific purposes, and that it should be done in a controlled way where people will be licensed to engage in that activity. The Commission, let us remember, came to no conclusion and made no recommendation in relation to the legalization of cannabis for religious or recreational use. They could not offer a recommendation on that. And so the government's position then was that we would take the unanimous recommendation, which was to legalize for purposes of medicinal medicinal and scientific use, and decriminalize small amounts of marijuana. And if the public is wondering what the difference is, decriminalization simply means that you don't get a criminal charge, you get a ticket, like a traffic offense. It's not considered a criminal offense, because many understand that one of the big problems was that our youth, especially our young men, were being criminalized for small quantities of marijuana. They would then have a criminal conviction recorded against them, which then negatively impacted their ability to get jobs, to even apply for a U.S. visa and the like. And so we wanted to see how we can resolve that issue. And so the government, federal government, the Team Unity government accepted the unanimous recommendations of the commission. But we came to no determination initially in relation to religious and recreational use. We, however, as any prudent and sensible government which respects the rule of law, understood that there was a matter pending in the court and that a decision was imminent where a member of the Rastafarian faith had taken the government to court challenging certain aspects of the law on the basis that they were unconstitutional and that they infringed his right to use marijuana. The court has since ruled, and that ruling sought to say that some provisions of the Drugs Act were unconstitutional. And so the government then went back and said in light of that decision, they would again go back to the framers of legislation, the Attorney General's chambers, and seek to meet the concerns that the court had highlighted in relation to the unconstitutionality of some of those provisions. And so as a consequence, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday's debate, which I'm advised concluded today, was very significant. It was historic in many ways for the Federation. I myself, as a member of the Parliament, had intended to speak on this bill. I had intended to speak on the bill because historically I know that it was important to lend my voice to this landmark legislation. St. Kitts and Nevis has now gone farther than any other Caribbean country in dealing with this issue of cannabis use and the use of cannabis for a variety of reasons. And I really wanted to be a part of it. As it turned out this morning, the news struck of this devastating fire, and I could not make it to St. Kitts to make my contribution. I, however, want to go on record to congratulate the Prime Minister, to congratulate the members of the Cabinet, to congratulate the CMO, Dr. Laws, and the process that she led, to say that in my humble opinion, this dealing with this issue of cannabis is the best demonstration that we have seen in recent times in this country of good governance at work. Because I recognize that members of Cabinet had disparate views on this issue. I recognize that people had their own personal views on the issue. But we do not serve ourselves when we are elected. We serve others. And it is always a very dangerous thing for us to seek to impose our personal view and our personal bias and sometimes our jaundiced and short-sighted views on those whom we serve. And so this government took the very important position that this process must be consultative in nature, and as a consequence, put together this commission, broad-based, wide-ranging, pulling members from every strand of society. And that commission did its work for 18 months. I want the public to reflect on that. And then produced an independent report that the Cabinet then used to guide its change in position. And I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that that makes manifest the good governance agenda that we often talk about. That consulting people, hearing from the public, understanding the issue, having an opportunity, because none of us in the Cabinet know anything about marijuana and marijuana use or abuse. And so having the experts go out and talk to Tutmun Saman Bagay, I thought was helpful, and I think that on major issues affecting our country, that provides a model that we ought to use, so that when we come, as we do, with new policy, new positions, that the members of the public recognize that this emanates from them. And so I think that yesterday and today were red letter days in the history of our parliament, in the history of our country. Let me also go on record to say that despite the chatter and despite the sound and fury about marijuana, it is Team Unity that has delivered in relation to the legislative changes to bring some relief to our people. And that is important. I could talk about the bridge all my life. I can have aspirations, but we must always judge on one's delivery. Who has delivered? And I believe on this issue, there is no doubt and could be no doubt that this government has delivered. I say this last thing on this matter, that this government has been brave. You may ask, what do you mean when you say that? I say we have been brave, we have been bold, because we are blazing a path that no other Caribbean nation has yet blazed. We are taking a position guided by the Commission report and by the decision of Mr. Justice Ventos that nobody else in the region has yet taken. And we're moving to a point where we're not only talking about cannabis in the context of industry, in the context of science and research, in the context of medicinal use, but also in the context of recreational use and protecting the rights of those who use it as part of their faith. It is a bold move, to be sure. We must remember that even while Little St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest nation in the hemisphere, is making this type of move and sounding its voice in the regional and international arena for standing up to do what is right in the context of the research that is available to us and in the context of the court's decision on our respect for the rule of law and in the context of the Commission's report, that marijuana still remains a dangerous drug on the UN list of dangerous drugs, the United Nations list. Marijuana still remains a criminal offense, and a serious criminal offense, for its use and distribution and sale under federal law in the United States of America. And so I want people to understand that there are still dark and difficult days ahead. There will still be a need for every resource of the government to be used, not only to educate our people locally, but to get the message out regionally and internationally, to be a catalyst for change at the UN and change within some of the major countries in the world. Because otherwise we run the risk, and that is why I say we have been brave, of alienating our country and creating difficulties for our people. And so I would want those out there, while they recognize the tremendous strides taken yesterday and today, and the historical nature of this legislation, to also appreciate that it has not come without risk. But sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, we take risks if we are persuaded that what we're doing is right. And this process has come about as it has come about, and as I have described, and we think that St. Kitts and Nevis yesterday and today has done the right thing. And so for those youngsters out there who had been concerned about having a criminal record for marijuana, that will now be expunged. For those who had hitherto been arrested, harassed, persecuted, and prosecuted, that will now be a thing of the past. For the Rastafarians, who I believe ought to take the credit for what has happened here, who have suffered long and been long suffering, that this is a triumph for them. And I hold no water in my mouth to say that this is a triumph for them. They are politicians, what I call Johnny-come-lateys, who have sought to jump on the bandwagon. I was at a rally once for the Rastafarian community here in Nevis, and the issue of marijuana has always been their number one issue. And I recall a chap from the NRP took the mic. And when he took the mic to bring greetings, he said, Jah Rastafari. And I said, look at this bald head. Huh? Look at this bald head. Talking about Jah Rastafari, pandering in the worst form. And then went on to say that he was always a fan of marijuana because he had a farm. And he had a Rastaman working on his farm. And when he give the Rastaman weed, the Rastaman work all day. Didn't even want any food. And I said, listen to this. Foolishness comes from the heart of foolish people. And I had to speak to say to the Rastafarian community, do not allow anyone to steal your glory. Because you're the ones who, since the advent of Rastafarianism, have suffered. And have been persecuted and prosecuted, have been hounded in your homes, have had your homes raided, sometimes in the dead of night, have lost jobs and been denied opportunity. You have been the ones who have made this argument. If there are freedom fighters in relation to this, it is the Rastafarian community. And you must take the credit, and the credit must be given to you. Not any Johnny-come-lateys. And the government, I believe, the credit that they must take is that they had the strength, the vision, the fortitude, the wisdom to engage in a consultative process, and ultimately now to have been able to pass landmark legislation, which is only the start because there's more to come, to ensure that we have a proper, regulated situation here for the use, possession, and control of cannabis. I am particularly pleased, and I want to lend my voice and my support to the expression by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet that we will ensure that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis are the beneficiaries of any industry, any economic activity that cannabis brings. And I want the Rasta brethren out there, wherever they are, if they're listening, to gird their loins and get ready. Because you who have suffered the most, in my humble opinion, should now benefit the most. And I hold no water in my mouth to say that. You should now benefit the most. And therefore you should get in line and be prepared to get your licenses to cultivate and your licenses to do all that is necessary in the context of the industry that we're now talking about. If it is that the weed used to put you in jail, well, let the weed now help you send your picnic to school. Let the weed now help you build your house and buy your car. And let the weed now send your children to university. Because you are the ones who, in my humble opinion, have suffered the most. I will leave that there, safe to end by saying that I truly, truly feel proud today that I was a part of a government that could have had the vision, the wisdom, the understanding, the empathy to make the changes to the law that we have seen done today, and the changes yet that are to come. And I congratulate all that have been involved in that very important process. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to On the Mark. It is 22 the hour of 9 o'clock, and I'm going to take your calls now. The numbers are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let us open the lines now and go to the phones. Good evening, you're On the Mark.
Blessed evening, my beloved brother. How are you and your family?
We are doing well, my brother. Thank you for calling.
And let me say, brother, my sympathy goes out to you and your partners, on that historic building that was engulfed in fire, beloved.
Thank you.
Sympathies go out to you and your partners. Now, beloved brother, as you rightfully said, it was a historic day in the Federation, St. Kitts Nevis, concerning the of herb. I prefer to say herb, I prefer the criminalization of herb. I know more legislation is to come, beloved brother, because not the final thing as yet. But brother, I am saying also, brother, yes, I would like to see down the road, the next 3 years, 3.5 years, brother, we move to legalization. But that is for another time, beloved brother. And let me say, I must congratulate my cousin, Ras Sankofa Maccabee, to bring in that thing against the police commissioner,
Yes.
beloved brother. He's a very intelligent, but you know sometimes we disagree. I mean, I'm older brother than him. He's beloved brother. But brother, you know, I like to see happen too. And this must be done, beloved brother. All the members in CARICOM must apologize to the Rastafari communities, starting from Guyana in the south, beloved brother, to Jamaica in the north. And I'm going to tell you why. In 1963, Rastafarians was murdered in Jamaica, beloved brother. I think it's about 25 of them, and the Bustamante, beloved brother. And you could go from the 70s in Dominica. You could have just murdered any Rastafarian, brother. Even though it was not illegal. It was not illegal to do things like that, beloved brother. And brother, you know what went down in Dominica and across the entire Caribbean. Brothers, we couldn't get jobs. We couldn't even, I had to leave school, beloved brother, high school, Bastille Senior High School in 76, because I take the stance that nobody going to make me bow, buckle, or banner. And I kept my locks, beloved brother, and I left Fort Farm, beloved brother. But it's not about Brother Naboom. It's about all of us, beloved brother, who couldn't earn a living. I was forced. I could have stayed in St. Kitts Nevis because my grandparents, they wasn't rich, but they had it, you know. But I didn't want my grandparents to support me, beloved brother. So I went away, beloved brother. I didn't want to come out here. I mean, I went to St. Martin first, but I'm not going to talk about me, but I'm just a little synopsis about me, beloved brother. We couldn't get no jobs. Nothing in the government services, nothing in public, very few in the private sector, beloved brother, and it was the mediocre jobs all across the Caribbean, beloved brother, and all the members in CARICOM must apologize to the Rastafari community across the from South America and in South America and Jamaica down to Jamaica in the north in the Caribbean, brother, and we must, even if I get to take the last penny, brother, that I have and bring a class action lawsuit against all the members in CARICOM for our reparations, beloved brother. But that's for another time, beloved brother. I don't like to speak about me personally because it's not about Brother Naboom, my beloved brother. It's not about me, man. But the dreadful things we went through, man, it's not easy, beloved brother. I am 60 years old. Gonna be 61 in December, beloved brother. And sometimes when I speak about this thing, man, it still hurt me, beloved brother, to see what happened to us, beloved brother, as Rastafarians, man, in the 70s and before that, beloved brother. So, beloved brother, I am saying some of these people who come on board now, they must not, the Rastafari community must be given the first chance, beloved brother, to make a wrong right, beloved brother. I must be given the license, man, to benefit whatever says or whatsoever, and you're gonna hear my voice thunderously, beloved brother, to make sure that is done. I don't want anything from that, beloved brother. I am okay here in the U.S. I mean, I'm not a rich person. I'm far from that. But I'm making a living, working. It's okay, beloved beloved brother. But, beloved brother, I must congratulate this administration to take the bold step, man.
Yes.
The bold step. Because I remember when the guy from St. Paul stood up in the National Assembly and said, as long as he's Prime Minister, marijuana will not be legalized. And now he was jumping on the bandwagon. But you cannot trust these people, man. People like those, you cannot trust them, beloved brother. Brother, and let me say in closing, because no others want to speak, beloved brother, you must go further, and that they're going to come. You tell my Rastafarian brothers and sisters, take it easy. This Team Unity administration going to do the right thing. And they're on their way doing the right thing, but more need to be done, beloved brother. And I want to see that apology coming, my beloved brother, and then I'm counting on you, beloved brother, to make that a reality. I'm going to remind you every time I call, beloved brother, especially when you go to the United Nations, the nonsense that they have up there still at the United Nations, but herb is a dangerous and thing drug. You know, brother, that must change, beloved brother. It must change. Because, you know, up here, a lot of states are, decriminalizing it, and they're making billions of dollars, beloved brother. So, my beloved brother, let me congratulate this administration, the Team Unity administration, again, for their vision, but more need to be done. I will give them 3.5 years, beloved brother, to do the ultimate thing, beloved brother. And I'm counting on you, my beloved brother, to do the right thing. Big carry comes the apology and some reparations. And when you think at the United Nations, let that voice be heard to my beloved brother. Brother, thanks again for hearing me. Pan-Africanism our perish. One love, beloved brother. Continue to listen.
Thank you very much. I let you speak because, of course, the passion is evident. And as someone who has suffered yourself, it was quite apparent that you know about this. You have felt the difficulty. You have felt the discrimination. And that is why I say that the Rastafarian community should now not allow others to steal that credit, because they are the ones, really, who have fought and struggled and suffered to see this fundamental change in our lot today. I don't think the historical nature, the groundbreaking nature of what has happened here should be lost in any of us. And I believe the Rastafarian community should properly be applauded, because they have been in the vanguard of this struggle for a very long time. I hear you about the apology, and I think that certainly I would want to agree with you. And I think that that too will come, because it should come. And so we look forward to see what the next days and weeks hold in this unfolding historical situation here in our country. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? 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 Caller, can you hear me? Okay, this caller is listening to the radio, not listening to me. Caller, please call back.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Okay, good evening.
Mr. Brantley, good night.
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Two topics I want to speak about: the marijuana issue and to something to do with carnival. Johnny come lately. The politicians now want come to be dictating who must plant weed. Which politician must we, as the people in the federation, go to get certification to plant marijuana? Which of the politicians of today smoke marijuana? So then, who should we go to tell us what to do?
Caller, slow down. Okay? Slow down. It's important in the country that we not only debate, but we have reasoned debate. I see the priests, them and the Catholic Church marry people all the time. Listen to me. Caller. A conversation requires you to listen when I speak and vice versa. Okay? All right. So the priest in the Catholic Church marry people all the time, but the priest has no wife of his own. Doctors treat people for diseases, tuberculosis, HIV, but they may not have that disease themselves. So I don't understand why you would have an issue with some agency being put in place through legislation to license people to grow marijuana. Because clearly there has to be a system of control. For example, there are concerns about children using marijuana. You may agree or disagree, but the medicine suggests and the science suggests that there ought to be some concern. The government would want to control that. So it's no different to any other activity. If you want to go and open a barbecue still,
That's totally different.
you have to get, no, I'm just saying, you have to get permission. You have to get your license.
Food handlers permit.
You know any business that is operating in the country without a license? That is what is required. So we need not get caught up about who smoke marijuana from who don't smoke. I don't smoke marijuana. I have no interest in smoking marijuana. But I respect somebody else's right to do so. That doesn't disqualify me from bringing up with some criteria to say who can plant and who can cultivate, as the case may be. So I think we need to elevate the debate and not get into thing and tell me because I'm not a smoker, I somehow can't be part of the solution for what has been a problem for many for all these decades.
Could I say something now?
Absolutely.
For example, you being a part of the solution, but yet still, who is now trying to be a part of the solution, or who was being a part of the victimization? The politicians who are the lawmakers are the victimization, and no one to come to the table. The way the persons who endure from the beginning unto this point in time, like Stan Cofer said today, what the judge said is not ain't adding up. So, for example, me want to plant a 2 tree yard. Me want to go to which one the minister to ask permission to plant to marijuana tree yard.
Well, it would not be asking the minister because things are going to be put in place where I'm sure, just like you go to the Ministry of Finance for your business license, there's something will be put in place. I don't think we should prejudge it.
Yeah,
But at the
yeah,
same time, caller, I think that we are not to lose sight of the tremendous step that has been made today. I understand. Sometimes a man is starving. Right? As we were saying in our local parlance, you're dead hungry. And you give the man half of a loaf. And the man eat the half a loaf and then the man tell you, why you never give me a whole bread? I could understand that.
Contentment.
I could understand sometimes that
Contentment.
we will not be satisfied.
You didn't have the half before, you get the half, you eat it, be satisfied.
Well, I'm saying that sometimes even with that, people say, well, you should have given me the whole bread. I appreciate that. That's
Okay,
human nature.
let us
But
go
what
to the
I'm saying is,
let's go to the second point,
well, I'm
because
just
I want
saying,
to
just
let you know.
before you go to the second point, let us not lose sight of how far St. Kitts and Nevis has come with that legislation today.
Where is nowhere.
Okay?
Where is nowhere.
Mhm.
Totally have not reached. Because me being a freelance farmer, I am me mountain going. I can't plant without going to ask for permission.
Well, you can't do so yet. You can't do so, but be patient. Because what you're making noise about now, but what you're making noise about now, remember, if you were going to plant in your lot in the mountain, the police and army would have come for you. So, when this is done, this process that has now started, you would not have to worry about that anymore. You will be a legitimate farmer, legitimate business person growing marijuana.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
before come off of this point,
Yes.
I'm going to stand it a little.
Yes.
How come, right? When a man decides to go lie with a man, get AIDS, you're going to come taxing me to buy him medication. How come I used to the different thing? Now finishing why you're doing how every anti-vector viral drug every month, how much millions of dollars we as citizens in this country paying? Nothing it.
But caller, with
Nastiness.
respect, if you're talking about people who have HIV,
No, talking about the nastiness because where it comes from, what harbored it.
yeah, but you,
What
yeah,
harbored it,
but call again, we must seek always to enlighten each other and educate each other. No, you can't say that because
maybe September.
but to suggest, caller, that people need antiretroviral drugs. Those are the people who are suffering from HIV and AIDS.
But legal, the legal agent could go with man.
Yeah, but
Without all this kind of stipulation, I try to it.
but caller, if you are fair, you would know. Hello, hold on a minute.
Will come to justice.
If you're fair, you would know that HIV and AIDS come from a variety of possibilities.
Nastiness.
Caller, you can get HIV through a blood transfusion.
The origin.
Caller, I don't
The
know.
origin.
I have never
The
seen
origin.
anything.
The
I have never seen anything say what the origins are.
Arthur Ashe did not have no contact with no man. In a heart transplant operation he had, and he contaminated AIDS because the blood had AIDS in it. They give it to him.
Okay, so I'm asking you then, should Arthur Ashe not be able to access antiretroviral drugs?
Yes, because the accidental point.
Okay.
What I'm speaking of, the origin.
Yeah, well,
where
but
the AIDS came from.
Caller,
Let's go into this.
all right, yes, please. 'Cause you're not going to win me on that one, so go ahead.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah, good. So we agree to disagree.
It's to do with culture.
Yes.
Because now asking what's going on in the culture, because I'll tell you something, right?
Mm.
I've been coming to Nevis, encouraging a lot of other young men and women who play clown to come to Nevis, perform every year, and it's like the man is over a month ago, right? I spoke to Abernathy Lightbud.
Yes.
Because before he registered the clown troupe this year, he was kicked off the stage and Nevis.
You're kicked off the stage?
You were telling you.
What do you mean you're kicked off the stage? I don't understand that.
It happened, I'll explain to you
Yes,
so
please.
everybody could understand.
Yes.
Sugar Band
Yes.
was in front, and a troupe from St. Kitts was accompanying Sugar Band.
Mm-hmm.
The clown troupe was to the back. After Sugar Band done play for the St. Kitts troupe on stage, Sugar Band lined up alongside the stage, you know. We went up now. Where we start to tell we're going to perform, go off the stage. We had what to go. We try to do things the right way now. Mr. Abernathy Lightbud registered our clown troupe over a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
All the requirements was asked of him was to organize a hi-fi system and leave it for us. We would have paid our passage up to Nevis. We would have worked with our music and organizing it. Up to this week when I call him, my mother, he's like, hey, properly organized. On the weekend I call you, you know. I send a voice message to your phone. I thought you would have been organized with him. Because I tell you, every year it's what he does. It's what he does every year.
Okay, so you're coming up for when? Juve?
We're coming again. Me not take my more embarrassment. We're coming again. I'll tell you something, you know. A young lady left St. Kitts, went and take part in the Queen show they had up there a couple of years ago. She came out to me hand playing clown. She come Queen. Because it's something is like, I'll tell you something more. Come January, 50 years, 50, I've been taking part in Carnival in St. Kitts. Ain't a little piece of man. He just may not understand it. Why you? We ain't taking away.
But could it have been called as simply that, you know, people are overwhelmed and it's not meant to disrespect you?
Embarrassment I don't take.
But maybe it's not meant. Maybe it's not meant to embarrass you.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. Because I tell you a couple of years ago they kick us off the stage. So we try to organize it properly now.
So you were kicked off the stage because. So you were kicked off the stage a few years ago because you're not properly registered.
Exactly. So now we try to do it this year.
Right.
It's like here organize a hi-fi system.
So it's just a hi-fi system you need to arrange.
That's all we wanted.
But you don't need to. But you don't need to pull out for that because the parade is next week.
Yeah, but then you see the whole thing about it is this. I don't went and tell a lot of the guys them. It's like, hey, make no more sense. We go up there. You can't. It's like the negative that's running through me, negativity that's running through my body now. It's like, me accepted, me wanted.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I was not aware of this until you've called.
If you go back to your phone, you see, you got an email or a voice message from me.
Okay. All right.
Try to read. You can't take that here.
Okay. All right. Okay, brother. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm sorry that you've changed your mind, because if Abernathy and the team are listening, it's simply a question of setting up a hi-fi. I don't think that should be a problem. And in my view, knowing what is going on, I think it perhaps was nothing more than an oversight, not any effort to insult you or embarrass you in any way. You did say you were asked to leave the stage the last time because you're not properly registered, so I can understand that, because the stage and the judging is for clearly the troops that are registered. But if this year you want to come, I think that we always cherish and welcome the participation of our brothers and sisters from St. Kitts in the Culturama celebrations. I see no reason why you should be excluded, and I don't hear from you any indication that you have been excluded, just that several days on. I think we have what? Today is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So you have 6 days before. I think it's ample time that a hi-fi could be found for you. So my recommendation to you is, if you can, call your members, get them sorted out, and make sure the necessary contact is made with the Culturama Secretariat tomorrow to get things in place. I think we'd love to see the performance on the road, and we would certainly love to see you and the team come over. I would not bother to get into the gay bashing that you engaged in moments ago. That's your personal view. You're entitled to it. I would only say that HIV and AIDS comes from a variety of activity, and we ought not to discriminate against people. If people are sick, they need care. You are sick, you show up at JNF Hospital tomorrow, nobody going or should ask you, well, how you get that? People should care for you. That is our humanity. That's what I'm talking about, caring about each other. And while you're quick to call this nasty and that nasty, as far as I know, there's only one judge, and that is God. And we set a very dangerous precedent when we seek to start to judge each other, because sometimes Abba no better than Saba. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. You're on the mark. Go ahead, please.
Yes, hello, good evening, Andy Mark.
Good evening to you.
Sorry to hear about that thing, but I was saying earlier at work that I want to know why you didn't give Honorable Llewellyn Douglas the invitation to go. And when he was speaking in the House to say that he needed policy, you was supposed to apologize to him, because the opposition supposed to go with what you go to. Because it's the opposition and a government, you are government. So we need to hear, we are opposition, what's going on, and you all need to know what's going on too.
Well, I hear you, but I think the point the speaker made is that Dr. Douglas...
But the Governor General was supposed to step in and talk about it, because he's the head over all you.
Okay. Well,
I understand.
okay. Well, this is the OECS Parliament, and neither the Governor General nor the Speaker of the St. Kitts Nevis Assembly has any control over that.
I could do that.
Right. So that was what the Speaker was saying. And he was explaining to Dr. Douglas that Dr. Douglas wrote his letter to the wrong person. It's not him.
Okay.
He doesn't decide who goes to the OECS Parliament, you see. So that was the thing. So I think that that's a matter that will be resolved. Okay?
Yeah, okay. I hope everything all right with you and the summer. I feel so bad about it. When you're talking to what I'm trying to tell you, I understand when the girl tell me, you just went on the radio talking about this for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Evening.
Thank you, darling. It's good chatting to your sister today as well.
Yeah.
All right. God bless.
Good evening.
Okay, bye-bye. It's 5 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Just going back to the few calls that we've had, and to say to other callers, if you're interested, you can definitely call in and share your views. I would also like to hear from the public about whether or not they're enjoying the Culturama so far, what the standard has been like, the Calypso, of course, those shows that are yet to come, people are building up to them. I know that the various Calypsonians are out there honing their craft and getting things together, and certainly this is a time of year that all of us look forward to, and certainly a time of year that I know the Calypsonians and the various performers look forward to. I myself look forward to the Long Jam every year, and it's always good fun. So we like to see and experience this immersion in culture that we enjoy so much. And certainly I've heard that a lot of people from St. Kitts are going to be coming over, as well as people from other islands who are already here, and many more that are coming. Before I go back to that caller previously, let me just take this call and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening to you.
I hear quite a lot on the streets, right? But I know both you and I know that hearsay is often littered with lies.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's some truth in it. So my question is, what is the latest in regards to the Public Integrity Life Commission? Because when the Prime Minister has to publicly state that he needs to provide oversight in regards to how funds are being spent, it's indicative of the corruption in the country.
Well, caller, thank you for your call. I don't know, because I think some comments were attributed to the Prime Minister. Some issue about he wants to ensure that there is no squandering or something like that. The Prime Minister has indicated to us in the Cabinet that he made no such comment. But nevertheless, that comment has been ascribed to him and it has been widely reported. What the Prime Minister meant, I can't say, because he's now saying he made no such comment, and if he made the comment, then certainly it is for him to explain. But I want the public to be clear, and I think I've said this in a very recent press statement invited by, I think it was another radio station, that the checks and balances associated with spending in Nevis are well and truly in place and entrenched. That every penny that is spent has to be accounted for, and that is why we have a director of audit that does his work and produces a report. In fact, I made it clear that when we got into office in 2013, there had been no director of audit report for many, many years before that. And only now, under this administration, we are getting the director of audit to complete its work in order to bring the accounts of the administration up to date. So 2006, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, no director of audit report was ever put in the House, as required by law and the Constitution. So the director of audit has indicated that he will be up to date this year, and so thereafter we will be on an even keel. I say that to assure the public that any money that is spent is accounted for. We have the PS Finance, we have the Treasury and the head of Treasury, we have the Inland Revenue Department. They're all run in a transparent and open way. Each year we do a budget where we outline what our plans are, programs, what the expenditure is likely to be, what the revenue is likely to be. And so I want that to be pellucid. Now, in relation to integrity in public life, we have done more than anybody has ever done. In fact, we have created history because we now have a functional integrity commission. They have an office, they have staff, and they must now do their work. So I want to make that very clear, caller, that the Prime Minister says he did not say that, but he has been reported in the press as saying so. And so that will be a matter certainly that he would have to explain. But I can say as the Premier of Nevis that insofar as we are concerned, every check and every balance is there. And I have said as a personal matter that I came to government with whatever I had already. I didn't come to government to engage myself in corrupt activities because I have no need to. And I have never sought to go down that road, and I have often said that. I believe it was Limo of old who said, before God and man, my hands are clean. And I believe that I can say that, and say that with conviction. I came into politics armed with my integrity, and I will leave politics armed with my integrity, because ultimately that's all we have. And I want to be very, very clear about that. And so anybody who has questions, who wants to find out how government money is being spent, I tell them just have to pay attention. Listen to the debates, listen to the discussions. Go and find a copy of the estimates. They are public documents. And you can see for yourself what is being done. You need not listen to those who pose as pundits when they don't know what they're talking about. So I don't know if that answers your caller, but that's the best that I could offer you at this point.
I have one more question, Mr.
Sure.
Mann. So I expect you to know all these things because you're the Prime Minister. However, when I try to
I'm the Premier, not the Prime Minister.
Premier, sorry.
Yes.
When I try to find these things for myself, it's very hard to find it on the internet. I would have to rely on what is being said on the street.
Well, on the internet, I believe that things like the estimates and the budgets are available on the government website.
But that is all fine, right? What I want to find is how contracts are being distributed.
Well, but
who's getting these contracts.
well, you wouldn't find contracts, how contracts are being distributed on any website. What happens in terms of contracts being distributed, it depends on the size of contract. On significant contracts, you always have bids that come in and that are assessed. On some of the other contracts, for example, if you want a man to take a backhoe and clear a road, you may not have a bidding process on that. You may just invite someone to come and do that. because, of course, you have various local businesses offering those services, and we have a system where we try to rotate that. We rotate people in and rotate people out on the various projects. So if somebody works this week, somebody else will work next week, etc. So that everybody gets a little piece of what is being done. But I don't think that there's a system online where you will say, well, okay, Tom got a contract, this is the amount of the contract. We don't have that in place as yet. We may well get there, but that isn't in place. But what I'm talking about, the overall expenditure, the overall income, the projects per project, what is expended down to the penny is accounted for and is subject to an independent. I don't direct the director of audit. That's independent. It's an independent office under the Constitution, and they are the ones who provide the necessary check and balance in terms of coming and saying in the audit report whether there has been over expenditure, if so, why, and they have the capacity and the authority to investigate. So that is a system that currently exists and that has been in place. And I'm very proud to say that under this administration, the Director of Audit is finally doing the work that is necessary, because for many, many years, the government couldn't say what I'm now saying to you.
All right, Mr. Brantley.
All right.
I'm very sorry what happened to your locker.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello? Hello? Okay, that person again is busy listening to the radio, not listening to the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a bit of a delay normally on the radio, on the computer. So if you're listening via computer, please, if you're calling in, listen to your phone, not to the not to the computer, because I'll be saying hello to you on your phone, but there'll be a slight delay on the computer. So please, if you can, when you're calling, we want to hear what you have to say. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello? Hello, good evening. Okay, this person again isn't answering. Let's try this caller. Hello, good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Okay, see, now we're getting the same person over and over. Caller, the number's to caller 869-469-1616, 469-1700. If you're calling in, please, we're trying to answer your call so that you can be on the air. Please call in, get away from your computer or your radio, and answer the phone. Let's try again. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the mark.
Mark, this is your friend Dumpling from St. Kitts.
How are you, darling?
I'm so sad to hear what happened.
Yes.
I burst in tears. Anyhow, God is good, eh?
Thank you, thank you.
And I love you, love you, love you.
Thank you, I love you too, darling. Thank you
Okay.
for your call. I appreciate it, yeah?
Yes,
Okay, God bless you.
yes.
Okay, all right. See, we have some celebrities calling in now. That's the one and only Dumpling. Very famous personality there in St. Kitts and very well known across the Federation. Thank you very much for your call. I truly appreciate it, my dear. And I look forward to seeing you the next time I'm over in St. Kitts. It is 9:15 the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls at 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. As we indicated, tomorrow we have the memorial service for the Christina disaster, 49th year of that disaster, and that is happening at the Hunkins Drive at the Christina Memorial tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We're asking that everybody be seated, please, by 9:30, 9:45 at the latest, so that we can have a prompt start. We expect to be there tomorrow, and, of course, to remember those who passed and celebrate with those who survived. It was a tragic time in the history of Nevis, and we should never forget. And I encourage people, especially to send the young ones out who are clearly under 49 and would have no idea about what would have happened. I myself was only one when this tragedy occurred on the 1st of August, 1970. Let's go back to the phones and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good night, good night.
Good night to you.
I want to heal up to Madeline John up there in America, right? And Meow and Aggressive.
All right.
Come here, culture one night.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's try this other caller. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening. I'd like to congratulate this and that on his son, the one about 3 years ago. think it's well executed, splendid backup vocals. I think he has a good chance of being the first monarch in Nevis to repeat,
Yes.
to regain the crown.
Okay. Well, we will find out on Saturday, God willing.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, brother. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hi, how are you?
I am well, thank you.
Did I hear you say that there was a fire in Nevis?
Yes, there was.
What kind of fire?
When you say what kind of fire, what do you mean?
Like where was burning? Because I usually listen to the local
The
news.
offices of Daniel Brantley had a fire this morning, the small hours of the morning, and were destroyed.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry to hear.
Thank you very much.
Okay, dear.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. All right. It is now 17 minutes, past the of 9 o'clock. Remember that we go until 10, and then at 10, the band strikes up and we have to go. So if you have something to say, it's a good time to call 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. We've been talking about one and many things, but of course, this is the Culturama season, and tomorrow we have a break for somber and very important memorial service for the Christina disaster. That will happen tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Hunkins Drive. We're inviting the general public to come out in large numbers to be a part of that and to show our respect to those who died and to celebrate with those who survived. We expect the families to come, and I'm appealing especially for our youngsters to come so that they can be a part of that and to ensure that we don't lose this, that it doesn't get lost in history, but that we continue to remember, because the sinking of the Christina, the drowning death of so many hundreds of our people was a really pivotal time here in our history, and I would really want our people to be a part of that and to come and celebrate those who survive and commiserate and memorialize those who passed. I think that that's important. It is a time when we had heroes such as Winston Skeet and others who really should be remembered in this country into eternity for their contribution. Dr. Kennedy Simmons, who I'm told was a young doctor at the time. All of these people contributed much. And indeed, the NRP, the Nevis Reformation Party, emerged from the ashes, if you will, of the Christina. And so we had all of these political, social, socioeconomic, social, political, all of these developments as a consequence of that tragedy. So it's a really important memory that we should never lose sight of, and that happens tomorrow. The one and all are invited to come and be a part of it. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Bradley. How are you tonight?
Good evening to you. I'm not bad, thank you.
Sorry to hear about your misfortune today.
Thank you very much, thank you.
You know, I was in town today. I went for Poet in the Square, and I saw some the place cutting up the road, but I didn't know.
Yes.
I didn't know what happened to you until ZIZ News comes on before Nevis News on the television. Then it said that I was in town all afternoon and I didn't hear about it. And Poet in the Square, it was poor today. We only had three speakers and the masquerade. So the people who named my hair were supposed to come, they didn't come. But
It didn't come, I see.
what was done was all right. It was okay.
Okay.
And I am glad you came on tonight and explained why you didn't get to speak in the Parliament, because the analysts and as I was coming from town, I had the radio on in the car, and someone was saying how the Prime Minister didn't give you a chance to speak, the Attorney General speak, the Prime Minister speak, Ms. Phipps speak, and whatever, and even you didn't get a chance to speak. All the time I didn't know that the reason why you didn't get to speak.
Well, I don't know why people would have said that, because
I don't understand either.
this morning, clearly, I was caught up with the situation. I did explain to the Honorable Prime Minister that it would be unlikely that I would be able to come. I had every intention yesterday to speak, but we had ended the Parliament, as you know, a little, around 6, I think it ended, after 5 or thereabouts, with the intention to come back today. But of course, I couldn't have known yesterday that, this office building would have been burnt today. So, these things happen. I believe I spoke to the Speaker, and the Speaker himself also, I believe, would have said something in the House. So I don't know why people would again try to foster discord and difficulty, because that was never the situation at all. As a matter of fact, I can say that yesterday the Prime Minister and I spoke in the lounge at the Parliamentary Lounge, and he did ask me to speak on this bill to make some specific points that I needed and wanted to make. So there was every intention that I would speak, and as it turned out, I could not because of circumstances today, but for no other reason.
Exactly. But and people believe, people take things just the way that they delivered it before. And instead of saying, he's sorry for what happened to you, he just come on and start spitting all kind of trouble in it.
Yeah, well, these things happen. And as I said in something on social media this evening that today has shown me the very best in our people, and it has shown me the very worst in our people. I mean, I see people putting things on Facebook saying that I burned down my own building for sympathy, right? People are saying that, I'm looking for sympathy. It was all something that was arranged. And I wondered to myself, anybody going to incur millions of dollars of worth of losses on themselves for sympathy? That could make sense to any sensible person. But, these are the things.
And then put investigator to investigate. That means you investigating your own self, putting your own self in trouble.
These are the things that people say, and I just sometimes, invite our people to allow their sense to really guide them, as opposed to the nonsense that some people engage in. So,
anyway.
But it is what it is. God is in the midst, and we will get through by the grace of God. As I said, and I have said continuously, nobody was injured. There was no loss of life, and therefore everything else is replaceable. And so I am not going to lose any sleep over that.
All right.
Okay?
Good night.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much. Let us stick with the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello? Hello? Okay. Again, that person isn't there. It is 25 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls on 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Just to advise that on Friday night, they have the Wet Fete with Mr. Killer. Pick up something, anything. Grab something. I see the DJ here start to pick up, look like he pick up a bag. I don't even understand. Run with it. That man will be here in the village on Friday night, and he will be accompanied by, what they call him, the water god, Iowa George. And that looks like it's going to be a really, really fantastic night. One and all are expected to come out. I'm told they expect somewhere in the region of 5,000 people. And so it looks like it's going to be massive, and we're asking everybody to go out and be a part of the Wet Fete. And then on Saturday, we have the big food fair, of course, and that will be at the usual venue. And then after that, there's the Kaiso finals, when this and that will try to repeat and make history as the first monarch to have won twice in a row. We then have on Sunday, I believe, that is when we have the big event in the night, which is the Culture Queen. And it is a drag racing on Sunday. I think there's drag racing on Sunday as well. How could I have forgotten that? The usual Culturama drag racing, when they go over to the St. James's Raceway and bring the cars from all over to compete there. In the evening, there's the Miss Culture show. And then, of course, Monday morning, join me for the long jam. I'm ready. I haven't been in the gym, but you get your workout for the year, and that long jam, you come down the hill and enjoy yourself. And so we look forward to that. And certainly, of course, on Monday night, we have the Caribbean Queen show, which has also become a fixture, very elegant affair. And again, one and all invited to just come out and support. Tuesday, we have the parade of troops and the last lap. And then, of course, we call it a wrap, and Culturama would be over. So we have a few days. We're asking people to go out and enjoy themselves. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Okay, caller. We've lost that caller. Caller, please call back. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call to be a part of the program, and we ask you to call in and continue to do so that we can have your views and opinions heard. We have about half an hour left, and so we're inviting that. So, Culturama has, let's take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, my brother.
Yes.
I can be quick. But let me apologize, man. Now, how could I to talk about our ancestors who perished August 1st, 1970, brother. I was 11 years old, beloved brother. And let me say, brother, it is fully time that a monument is built on the other side of the waters, brother. St. Kitts, to be exact. What is taking so long after 49 years? There's not a monument on St. Kitts. It's a shame and a disgrace and a dishonor to those who lost their lives, beloved brother. And I'm calling on this administration, man. They got, brother, this administration correcting a lot of wrongs that have been done for tens of years, beloved. You know? And it's taking a toll, beloved brother. But we must do the right thing. And I'm calling on this administration. Put up a monument right in front there. Port Simmons. I don't say no Port Zante because that's a Greek word. It's Dr. Kennedy Simmons, our national hero. National hero was instrumental in building that. I mean, everybody knows, beloved brother. So I need to see a monument there, beloved brother. And you know, tomorrow is Emancipation Day, beloved brother. We must pay homage to our ancestors, brother, because they make us what we are today, beloved brother. And I would like to see an African Holocaust Museum in St. Kitts Nevis, beloved brother. I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money, but ain't no kind of money worth what our ancestors do. And they pay the ultimate prices, beloved brother, and no kind of money cannot match up to that, beloved brother. Brother, thanks for hearing me again. Keep up the great works, and you know, I always say, when Dr. Harris is done with his 10 years, 2 terms, brother, for me, you will be, I will support you, beloved brother. You continue doing the great things, I will support you to be the next Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Brother, and I am consistent with that, beloved brother. Not just when you're there, when brother like brother there, beloved brother. I said the same thing, and I said the same thing over on St. Kitts radio stations also. A lot of people don't like it, but brother, I speak the truth, and I don't speak with no water in my mouth, beloved brother. Nobody will not muzzle me, beloved brother. Brother, thanks again. Keep up the great works. Pan-Africanism or perish.
Okay, thank you very much. It is 1/2 the hour. We're taking your calls. Good evening. Okay, we've lost that caller. Caller, please be patient. Call back 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. The caller makes a very, very interesting point. I think that the Christina disaster has always been seen as a Nevis tragedy. And that is interesting because many people from St. Kitts also perished. But it has really always been seen as a Nevisian tragedy, that the vast majority of persons who perished were from Nevis, that people were coming home, I think that weekend, and of course, hundreds would have perished. And so it is a curiosity that there has never been a memorial on St. Kitts. I'm told that many of the dead were buried at the Springfield Cemetery. But here in Nevis, we have 2 memorials. We have one at what we call the Britannic, the Bath Cemetery, and we have one specially built also at the Hunkins Drive, looking out onto the Caribbean Sea, where those hundreds of persons would have perished. And so it is an interesting observation that the scholar made as to why to this day there is no monument in St. Kitts, nothing to remember the hundreds who died and the scores of Kittitians who perished as well on board that vessel. I think over the years, for a variety of reasons, it has always been seen as a Nevis tragedy, that the vast majority of persons who died were from Nevis, and as a consequence, it was seen and perceived in that way. Indeed, it led to the rising of the NRP, a party, as we know, founded by the former leader and premier, the first premier of Nevis, now national hero, Sir Simeon Daniel, and that party rose up out of the proverbial ashes of the Christina to fight against the Labour Party in St. Kitts, because the destruction caused to Nevis society by the sinking of the Christina was seen as evidence, if you will, as an indication for all to see of the neglect that Nevis had suffered under the then regime of Robert Bratcher. And so that was a sort of a catalyst, if you will, that led to the NRP, led to the uprising, led to the secession movement being given renewed vigor. It was in those days, I think, that the politics here became very fractious between the two islands, and that the Nevis versus St. Kitts sort of ideology that pervades the politics, and some may say even today has echoes of that same politics, that became current. And so the sinking of the Christina, I think, had a lot to do with it. And the observation made by the scholar is quite appropriate, because one wonders why there is, even now, 49 years on, no memorial in St. Kitts, and indeed no ceremony in St. Kitts to mark this sad occasion. And so, caller, you're right, this is perhaps something that it will fall to us who are now in government to change, because many people from St. Kitts perished as well, and this was the single largest tragedy that impacted the islands, the twin islands of St. Kitts and Nevis, the single largest tragedy of all these hundreds of lives lost at sea when the Christina sank on the 1st of August 1970. And so I think that that point needs to be reinforced, and it is a call, no doubt, from this call, and I think from others, and I will join with that call in saying that something ought to be done 49 years on, so that on the other side of the Narrows in St. Kitts, remember, the Christina left Bastia, sailed into Nevis, and sank on that journey. And so it will forever epitomize and symbolize the situation between our two islands and the difficulty then in 1970 that our people endured. And so, yes, it is appropriate that a monument be put in St. Kitts, and yes, it is appropriate that some ceremony also be held in St. Kitts, even at this late stage, so that we might be able to do something there in the ensuing years, and so that the children in St. Kitts and the people in St. Kitts themselves may never forget this tragedy. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please listen to the phone, not to your computer. You're on the mark.
So, Mr. This is Dumpling again.
Yes.
I try and tell them, put it there by the old treasury, because there is where the pier was.
Yes.
Before.
Yes.
Put something there. Maybe it's in front of them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They could have even put something in the by the cemetery.
Yes.
Here by the college, because it's there to bury the people them.
Right.
And they just dragging the vote. I tell me good point, maybe good premier, and then the Prime Minister, Dr. Simon. Put it there.
Mm-hmm.
He was in there for 15 years. Do it.
Right. Right. Well, I
And
think
they need to do it now.
I think it will be done, because it's important, because it's not only Nevis people perish,
Yeah.
many from St. Kitts perish as well.
Yeah, I was on the pier when the boat turned off.
Mm-hmm.
Then a lady back on, she tried. And then the child, when she heard the boat went down, she bawled. Because the child never wanted to go. And she charmed the child, Dolly. Yeah, so I had family dead too, on
Yes.
top of it.
Yes, well, hardly anybody in Nevis
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have family. Some lost mother and father, some lost brothers and sisters, you know.
If my sweetheart from Nevis,
Mm-hmm.
Finn, you know him, who was throwing the antenna them, Charles Chapman from down at Hanley's Road, Royalty.
Uh-huh.
He was on it.
Well, I tell you,
He
so
was
many
the
people.
man.
Yeah. So many
So
people.
they need to do something. So make sure you tell the Prime Minister do it.
Okay. All right, my dear.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. We have 25 minutes left. It's 25 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock, and we're taking your calls right here on Vaughan Radio. If you've just tuned in, my name is Mark Brantley. I'm the host of On the Mark, real talk across the Narrows, and you're tuned into the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, 860 on your AM dial or www.vonradio.com. And nowadays, they've gone high tech, so they tell me that we're also streaming live. So we're on Facebook, we're on VON's Facebook page, and you can, of course, watch and listen, and you can have the beauty of getting this tomorrow and in the ensuing days if you so desire. So let's go back to the phones now and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Bentley.
Good evening to you.
I'm so sorry for what I heard today. But anyway, I must say Culturama is all of us thing. It's not one body something, it's all of us.
Yes.
So I'm inviting the Kittitians, I'm inviting the Santo Domingos, the Guyanese. They're free to come and enjoy. We have a troop at Agriculture Department, and we're asking for those in Sinkit, you're free to join. It's just 150 will get you in the troop, and the number to call is 766-18201. Have a nice night, Mr. Bentley.
Okay, hello. Before you go, say it again, because some people, you said it so fast, they may not have heard you.
So get in the tube, the agriculture tube.
Yes.
It's just 150. There's food, clothes, and costumes. It's only 150, and they're free to get in. The number to call is 766-1821. Thank you.
Okay. All right, 766-1821 if you want to be a part of it. And I expect a lot of people are going to come up from Sinkits. They're going to be in the troops. Of course, we took a policy decision some years ago that the bands in Sinkits would be allowed on the road. I don't understand why they weren't. And that they'll be a part of the jamming, the juve, and we have seen the numbers increase as a result of that decision. And I believe that this is as it should be. And I expect the Nevis bands, the bands from Sinkits, all of them are going to be on the road. We always enjoy the clash of the bands, and I think it's for the fans. They have a good time. I continue to encourage people to be safe, to party responsibly, not to drink and drive. And certainly, if they are engaging in sexual activity, to practice safe sex. All of these things are important, and we continue to urge our people to do what is important and to do the right thing. Let's go back to the phones. We have 20 minutes left. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Mr. Brantley,
Yes, good evening.
tomorrow we have cricket, Sinkit versus Navy.
Oh dear, I didn't remember that. Give me some details on it. What time?
2:30.
2:30?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So ask the public come up to and support the cricket side.
And that is going to be at ETW Park?
Yes, 2:30, sir.
Okay.
All right then.
Okay, thank you very much. And you know, as you mentioned, cricket happening tomorrow, Sinkits versus Nevis. I think it's a 2020 match right at ETW Park, 2:30 tomorrow. And again, one and all are invited to go out. There's so much happening. But while you mentioned that, I neglected to mention, and I should mention, that of course the Culturama Games were supposed to happen on Sunday last over at the Mondo Track facility. And because of the really freak storm that we had, the games had to be abandoned after having started. I want to, however, publicly commend Timothy Keynes and his team for not only the idea, but for working with, of course, the Ministry of Youth and Sports to execute the Culturama Games. You know, the drive, the passion, the vision that Timothy has demonstrated, I think, is welcomed. More people need to really step up and offer their services in that sense, bring their ideas to the fore. And I happened to be at the airport on Monday morning, and I will tell you, I was shocked at the number of people at that airport at Van Sammer International. And I was told that the scores of passengers I saw there, that those were only a fraction of those who were using the airport to go out. Matter of fact, I gathered that over 20 flights came in back and forth in terms of bringing in people from the various islands who came in for the Culturama Games. I say that to say that the economic impact of these events is very significant, and we ought to recognize and salute those like Tim Keynes who have been involved in these types of efforts, because I think the entire community, the entire society, the entire island benefits. And I was very, very heartened when I saw the numbers going through the Van Sammer International Airport. I don't think it's a secret. We have been seeking all kinds of ways and means to generate some life at that airport, to get people again to use the facility. And it was really a pleasure to see so many using it. I want to commend in particular the teams that came in. I was there for a while with those from Anguilla. Anguilla had a huge contingent that came in. thank you, our brothers and sisters from Anguilla, Montserrat, and all Antigua and the various islands, all of whom send athletes in for this Culturama Games. We hope next year that it will be bigger and better, and hopefully, of course, we'll have better weather as well. Nobody can control the weather, so we appreciate that was not the fault of anyone, and we tried our best in the circumstances. So congratulations to all, and I think a fantastic effort, notwithstanding the weather. Let's go back to the phones again and see who's here. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much.
Earlier, I think his dumpling mentioned at the Senate cemetery, right? I too agree with her. There's nothing there to show that these people that perished and Sean buried there, you're not seeing anything. I don't know much about Christina. And if what they should do, that nobody at all bury anybody in that area.
Yes.
Specify the area there. This is for people that, for Christina disaster, individual or whatever.
Yes.
I think something needs to be done as soon as possible.
Okay, okay. All right, well, I thank you for that. I think we're in agreement on that it is time that we correct that, and I certainly will send a note to the Prime Minister and invite them to have a look at it, the Federal Cabinet to have a look at it. I think that is indeed important. Brother Nabu raised it. I think that Dumpling has called, you have called to support, and I think it's the right thing to do after all these years, to have some form of memorial in St. Kitts as well, because this tragedy, notwithstanding that has been viewed through history as a Nivision tragedy, I keep saying it was a tragedy for the entire country. And both islands suffered. In fact, each year at the memorial, they read the list, and they have traditionally put which island the people were from. And there are quite a substantial number of people who were from the island of St. Kitts, notwithstanding, of course, that the vast and overwhelming majority were from Nevis. But this is a tragedy that was a national tragedy and should be remembered nationally, and I entirely agree with those who have expressed those sentiments. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to On the Mark. We have about 16 minutes left of the show, and so for those who may wish to be heard and wish to be a part of the show, they can certainly call in. We've been talking about one and many things, mostly Culturama, but also, of course, the historic legislative changes that have been made in the context of marijuana use here on the island of Nevis and the island of St. Kitts and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, that we in the Parliament of St. Kitts and Nevis have gone farther than any other country in the Caribbean and have taken that very bold decision, brave decision, to blaze a new path. And I believe, as I've said and continue to say, the Rastafarian community needs to be out front on this. They were the ones who were persecuted and prosecuted. They were the ones who suffered most. And therefore, in my humble opinion, they are the ones who ought now to reap the benefit, to be able to benefit from what they've struggled for, that is the legalization and or the criminalization of the use of marijuana. And so we encourage them to continue. I have had them here on this show talking about this issue. I have said to them in the past, in private and in my little sessions with them, that things happen in time, things happen incrementally. I know that has not always been what people want to hear, but I believe that today has been such an historic day, and that they should all be proud for their part in that struggle. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night to the Honorable Mark Brantley. Good night.
Good night to you, brother.
Yeah, Mark. Mark, just want to said my sad news. I hear the sad news, you know.
Yes.
And I just want to wish you all the best. You and the Daniel Lapome want to wish you all the best. And I just want to invite the Kittitian to go over and enjoy themselves, and nearby Caribbean people come over to enjoy the Culturama. This is our Culturama festival now. And, you know, as unity, we got to work as one and live as one and celebrate as one. Because there's no other way we can do it. As black people, when the occasion comes, we know we go and celebrate and do what we got to do as one. And I just want to wish the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis all the best. And, you know, I come in over myself, go do my part, coming over Monday, come enjoy myself, I always do. And I just want a peaceful culture, man, no fighting, nothing at all. Everybody just be happy and enjoy themselves. Mark, have a wonderful night. God bless.
Okay, my brother. I look forward to seeing you as usual.
Yeah, man.
You're absolutely correct. You're always here for Culturama, so we appreciate that support, and I look forward to seeing really thousands of people from St. Kitts coming over. I said to someone the other day that, St. Kitts and Nevis now is at a very special and unique place. The level of intercourse and interaction between our people is at an all-time high. I recall that when I saw at the music festival just concluded and then at this White Sands event, I couldn't walk for 2 feet, 3 feet without seeing Nevisians. I wondered aloud at one of the events whether there was anybody left in Nevis. And then when we saw the numbers from NASPA in Nevis about the number of people moving through the various ports, we realized that for music festival and White Sands that weekend, you had almost 10,000 people moving between St. Kitts and Nevis. So people are going back and forth, and that is what swells the numbers. When you see a packed crowd in St. Kitts for an event and you say, wow, a lot of those people are people who come over from the sister island of Nevis. And then what happened? There was this 4-in-1 fete over here, and the boats came the other way, packed with Kittitians coming over for this event. And I'm sure as the wet fete comes on Friday and as the other events, the same phenomenon. And that is good. It is what should happen. Sandy Point having an event, people from Keon, St. Paul's, Bastia going, should support. Charlestown having an event, those from Bastia support, and you continue in that vein. And so I believe that this is something that is good and something that ought to be encouraged. I just want to put down a little teaser tonight to say that on the 15th of September, remember last year we had a big Heroes Day concert. We introduced it last year. Well, we are continuing it this year. And on the 15th of September, we hope to have another massive free concert here in Nevis as we celebrate our national heroes. And that is something we're working on. We'll have some details soon. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, Bradley.
Yes, you're on the mark. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry to hear about what happened to you today. I hope you're keeping well under the circumstances, and I'm glad nobody got hurt. And on a lighter note, I hear you said you're ready for the long jam.
Yes.
I think you should go to, Mr. Killer, drink some rum, and pick up anything.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I'll take your suggestion on board.
Good job.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that, and thanks for your call. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good night to you.
Yes, this is Jam Down on the phone.
Yes, how are you?
I want to wish you well, my brother.
Yes.
And we heard about what went on over there in the wee hours of the morning.
Yes.
It's just asking you to be strong. The court of conscience is asking you to be strong.
Yes.
Because we will find who the culprits them is. Mr. Brantley, I've been to NIPAC when the brothers from Steel Pulse came over there and put down a splendid show and told world. And I would like you to continue that show going on. Bring in an artist when it comes to independent. You think it's want to do something, fine. But you do something over there. We have to keep these islands together.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I applaud you in what the brothers them has done, and I would like you to do something.
Well, I can confirm.
Continue a show.
Well, I can confirm to you. I just said that I have a little teaser. We are going to make an announcement just after Culturama. We have.
Yes, but we want the conscious side about it.
Yeah, of
we
course.
don't want nobody who coming from Jamaica preaching guns.
No. We're not engaging in that.
You realize we went on over there, especially when fans were singing. You realize we went on. You see how people get into him, and I was so amazed after hearing them tribute to St. Kitts independence in 1983.
Of course, you remember. Remember the drummer was from Nevis.
Yes, I know that, but they add horns to the band.
Yes.
And it sounds, oh my God, music.
Yes.
But Mr. Brantley, you stay strong, you know.
Thanks,
You
brother.
stay strong because no vagabond will come here to send no old school bus up there no more and no old dumb truck. And days gone. And you don't make tax them. who used to supporting me down in the small peel, talking about these islands coming together. Don't let Columbus catch them ball in the grave. And St. Daniel, you understand?
Okay, brother.
These guys carry the torch.
Yes,
and
they
it
did.
is one man glad a youngster like you come and rise to the occasion. God bless you. You're moving right now, you know, and unity here to stay.
Thank you,
And
brother.
all the Rastaman them who get knocked out in this thing, no white man can come here and run nothing. Have a good night, Mr. Brantley.
Okay.
God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much. Just to again confirm that we are putting things together, but we hope to have another free, massive Heroes Day concert on the 15th. I think the 15th is a Sunday, and the following day would be a holiday. So we have that on the 15th. We were having some scheduling issues because we have cricket, CPL, is also happening in St. Kitts. But I believe the Minister of Sport, the Honorable Sean Richards, Deputy Prime Minister, has advised me that the game in St. Kitts is at midday on the 15th, Sunday the 15th. And so that concert in the evening. So we're hoping you can go to the cricket during the day and then come to Nevis in the night for the concert. And so that is the intention. We're also going to have the state service, I think, is being put together for that day as well. I don't know if that's going to change, but a lot of activities, but we want to have that concert again. And this year we would be asking people, as we did last year, to wear your national colors, to wear something with the national flag, or bring a national flag, or bring your national colors. Just let us really pay homage to those on whose shoulders we stand, who would have built the foundation, the rock that is St. Kitts and Nevis. And it is an initiative that my government introduced last year, and it is something that we intend, God's willing, to be able to continue this year. So we're just trying to finalize artists and things like that, and then of course we hope to make an announcement. So tonight, as I said, it was just a tease, but caller, I want to tell you that it was so nice last year that we think that this should become an annual fixture, that we put this concert in place for people to enjoy and come out in oneness. And I agree with you that the music has to be conscious. It has to be something that brings people together rather than divides people or promote any kind of badness or slackness. That's not what we are about, and that's not what we're promoting. And so having set a very high bar with Steel Pulse and Third World last year, we have to come good and ensure that we continue in that vein. So we certainly look forward and see what we can achieve. It is about 6 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. If there are still folks out there who may want to call in and have their voice heard in relation to any of the matters that we've been discussing tonight, then you have an opportunity in the next 6 minutes or so. 469-1616, 469-1700. Or if you're calling from overseas, of course, 1-869-469-1616, 1-869-469-1700. This is On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and I've been with you now for an hour and 55 minutes. 5 minutes to go before the band strikes up. And we have been having a good show, I think. We've had a discussion of most and many things. We've talked about Culturama. Just to remind one and all again, if you're just tuning in, that tomorrow at 10 a.m., we have the memorial service for the Christina disaster at the Hunkins Drive. We're inviting as many people as possible to come. And then, of course, tomorrow also we're told that we have the 2020 game at ETW Park starting at 2:30. I think it's versus Nevis. And then Friday we have the Mr. Killer, the Wet Fet, happening on Friday. On Saturday we have the food fair. We have the Kaiser show. On Sunday we have the drag racing. We have the Miss Culture show Sunday night. So there's a lot of activity. Monday, of course, is Juve. Monday night we have the Caribbean show. And Tuesday we have Last Lap. And, of course, the Parade of Troops. So we have a lot that's going on. We invite people to come out. There's so much happening that I know I'm not remembering everything. But certainly you can go online and get the benefit of all the activities that are happening. And, of course, see and go out and be a part of the Culturama. We're inviting one and all to come out. We say welcome to our friends and family who are here. And certainly we look forward to a wonderful celebration for Culturama 45. I think that is important, that we continue to support our culture, we continue to cherish and build our cultural activities. So that for us is very important. and we are going to think, oh, I'm also here being reminded that on Thursday, tomorrow night, we have the Groovy and Power Soca Monarch. How could I forget that? So another packed day tomorrow. We start at 10 a.m. with the memorial service right there at Hunkins Drive for Christina Disaster. We then have Poets in the Square that's happening all week. We then have the Culturama T20 Sinkers versus Nevis cricket match at ETW Park. Then at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, we have the Groovy and Power Soca Monarch finals at the Village. So that's going to be a big, big show tomorrow night. And then, of course, we're going to Friday and Saturday. And we invite you to look at the calendar. There's really a lot of activity happening here. A very exciting time on the island of Nevis. Let's go back to the phones and take this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Is that Randley?
Yes.
I want you to consider Eric Donaldson. You know him, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, consider him. I mean, I don't tell you to bring him. Just consider him. I like him. He's not going to sing nothing about no guns and drugs.
All right. All right. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, brother. Well, we are getting suggestions for some artists. I'm sure all the people out there who have ideas can share them as well. I can tell you we're talking to two at the moment. We'll see how that goes. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good night. How are you?
Yes, I'm well. Thank you.
I'm going to listen off you when I don't say what to say, but I would like to know exactly what happened. I didn't hear anything what happened about the fire in Nevis, so can you clarify a bit of it for me, please?
Okay, well, we did talk about it earlier in the show. All right, we did talk about it earlier in the show, but just to say that at 5 a.m. or thereabouts this morning, the police rang me to say that the building that houses the main office of Daniel Brantley, the law firm that I'm associated with, and that I built all these years. Of course, I took a sabbatical leave from the firm in 2013 when I took up the government office when I was elected to government. But prior to that, I was very instrumental in building this practice all these years, and that they told me that it was on fire. I rushed down to the scene, and it was in fact on fire. The fire was blazing, very intense fire, and essentially the inside, all the books and files and everything has been destroyed. That is as much as I can tell you. The police are investigating, and the fire services, and I've asked the public not to speculate as to the cause, but to allow the investigation to take its course. I can say that through the resilience of the staff and partners, the law offices are up and running. They were functional today, and they will continue to function because we had a second location in Charlestown which was not affected by the fire. So the business isn't closed down, the business is going, and what has happened is tragic, considerable loss, significant loss, but it is the nature of what it is, and I have given God thanks because his plan is always perfect, and I am happy that there was no loss of life and no injury to anyone. All that has been lost can be rebuilt, and so we are comforted in that. And so that is as much as I could tell you. Caller, the situation is a bad one, but certainly God is good, and God is in the midst. That's our show. The banner struck up. It means we have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank you for being part of this show. Please come out tomorrow. Support the memorial service at the Christina Memorial there on Hunkins Drive at 10 a.m. Then go to Poets in the Square at noon. Then go to cricket at ETW Park at 2:30. Then Soca Monarch at 8 at the Cultural Village. There's so much to do. I beg you, go out, enjoy yourself, enjoy your Culturama. Happy Culturama 45. Enjoy the homecoming celebration and continue to be good Nevisians and good Kittians and good citizens. That's our show. Good night. May God bless you, comfort you, and always be with you. Thank you. Good night, and God bless you.